And welcome back to the Renegade Report. We are happy to have with us now Dr. Bill Baker, who's been the BC team doctor for, a long time. I'm just going to leave it at that, a long time. I'm going to let you tell us exactly how long. I know you've teamed up with Dr. Tivnan for the longest time as well, working the sidelines for BC football. Before I even get to that point and talk a little bit about your work, and Jeff, we knew he'd outdress us. We knew that, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, okay.
Just my working clothes.
Just your working clothes. Your working clothes are a lot better than my working clothes.
They have a higher standard.
Yeah, exactly. So let me just ask you, first of all, it's been how many years?
It's been 36 years.
36 years. Labor of love.
Labor of love, yes.
And it began, how did it all begin for you? Not so much what year, I can do the math, but how did it begin for you?
Well, when I came back to town to practice medicine, I went to Dr. Claroux's office, and I had a few weeks before I was able to occupy a space, and he said, well, why don't you use my office? And the first patient I diagnosed had valley fever, of course. And then shortly thereafter, the season started, and I was on the sidelines with Dr. Claroux, and that was through 1978. And during the season, he told me that he and his wife, Aggie, had been waiting to go in the fall to France. And they'd made a couple of other trips, but they'd never had the chance to really go in the fall when they wanted to go for a while. Mm-hmm. So he was putting me on notice that by the following year, he was going to France in the fall. So by the next year, Doc left the reins of the Renegade team physician job to me. And then he was there for a little while, then took off to France, was gone for about 6 or 8 weeks. Right. And after that, we worked together on the sidelines for decades. And then eventually, he became more someone who came to help out and really cheer for us rather than someone we relied on to do the work. And he was thrilled that he could leave Bakersfield College in the hands of someone who had the same passion he did.
Right.
And I know that feeling now because I've been there for a long time.
Sure, you bet. You bet.
How I would look forward to someone who would share that passion going forward in life.
So do you have 6 to 8 weeks in France on your schedule anywhere
soon?
No,
I'm afraid not. I missed a few games when the boys were playing college football.
Right.
And I'm going to miss this week. Our granddaughters are playing soccer in Denver. So here and there, I've tried to still attend to family matters. But generally, I've been there and I'll be there.
Yeah. Jeff, a few words just about Doc and Tivnan as well, Dr. Tivnan, but the work that they've done for Bakersfield College, and people should know too, they do it, for the school. They're not getting paid for this. Just what they've done for this school.
Well, I think Doc Baker hit the nail on the head, with Doc Claroux. I mean, he sets a high standard, and there's a guy who you can't help but not affect you as somebody that's worked with him, side by side, and he's given the reins to you. It's just like the coaching, the coaching history at BC. It's no different as that mantle or torch has been passed on to the next guy. You have a sense of not just pride, but it's obligation to be the best you can be, and these guys are outstanding. I love their humor, though, but it's always with me, it seems like. Yeah. It's always with me.
Do they deal with your ribs?
Oh, the kidney stones, ribs. This guy, But you know what? I got to provide some kind of resource for them in life, and I guess that's their outlet for their humor. I get it. But it's at my expense half the time.
When you get Doc Baker and Dr. Tivnan together, it's almost like, I'll date myself, Rowan and Martin, when it goes to these guys in terms of they just love playing off each other.
I'm the pincushion.
Yeah.
It's all right, though. I could take it.
Exactly. Give me your best Doc Claroux story. What would that be? Anything come to mind?
Two things. First of all, when I played, Doc Claroux was always there with his cigar in his mouth and his green beret on. And when we came down on the sidelines, we always knew Doc was there because we could smell his cigar. Mm-hmm. And we played LA Valley one time, and we beat him badly. And the backup offensive guard playing behind me, I won't name his name. He'll know who he is. He jumps off sides, supposedly the other guy jumped off sides, and we decided to have a fight. And the Renegades bench emptied, and the LA team emptied. And Doc Claroux's out in the middle sort of trying to, I'm not sure whether he's trying to get involved or stop the fight, but he's out there in his green beret with the coaches, one hand on one player, one hand on another. And so I remember Doc in the fight. And then I remember Doc and Dr. Tivnan at Fullerton. We played at Fullerton. And it was one of those classic games in which both teams are going to practically play to the death because we really don't like Fullerton. We didn't then. We still don't, right, Coach?
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay.
I want to make sure
no bones about it.
make sure I'm still politically correct
Yeah, okay.
because I really don't like Fullerton.
All right.
And so we're down there on the sidelines getting homered, and we got a 15-yard penalty for doing nothing while we're going into the end zone.
Yeah.
And Dr. Cleroux came off the sideline. He was yelling at the official. Dr. Tivnan said a few choice words to the official. Official came over. He almost threw them both out of the game, off the sidelines, threw his flag. I'm not sure you can throw your flag on the team doctors.
I think you can.
Apparently they can't.
You can in
they
Fullerton.
So if the doc had anything, it was passion.
Yeah.
And he was intense on the sidelines. He was into that game, every second of it.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned, too, your boys went through BC. Talk about the experience of being a dad who's watching his kids play, too, in terms of that. And just, you're so intertwined with the program, and now you've got blood right there playing right in front of you. What was that like?
It was incredibly special that John decided to stay and play at BC after Foothill rather than leaving and going on. Mm-hmm. All the boys grew up on the sideline at BC as ball boys, and we have wonderful pictures of them catching the ball, going through the goalpost, and running the ball onto the field. And the BC sidelines was always part of our life, but you really don't know how that's going to affect your children's decisions until they make those decisions when they get a little older. And when John decided to go to Bakersfield College and be a Renegade, it was just a really special moment. And he played on a fantastic team in 1990 and had a tremendous record of success there. And of course, you remember his big kick against
long game-winning field goal
against Pierce.
Brahmas. Yeah.
I was at that game
us
scouting
undefeated.
because that's when we played.
I don't want to talk
the
about it, Judy.
Renegades. The funny thing is, I was across the county, and I coached football and track both, and
that was
everybody remembers John as a great field goal kicker, but he was one amazing track and field athlete.
Yeah.
Oh, he was a great long jumper, triple jumper, high jumper, and I got to know the Bakers. I didn't know him, but I got to know the name. That year, he was a talent. He was a talented athlete. And I know he was a good soccer player too, but it was kind of funny that in 1990 we played him for the last game of the year, and saw him at the BC relays, and all the way we go to the Mount Sac relays, BC relays, and then state track meet. And John
There
Baker
they are,
was
the
guy.
Bakers.
Yeah.
We got about 3 minutes, so I want to get to the McGregor injury. We're going to roll the video. Doc, if you could just tell us a little bit about your observations, not so much of the play, but what you saw when you got to Curtis. You could just...
Well, Curtis went down right in front of me. Mm-hmm. And it was an injury which I can usually diagnose by the mechanism because it looked like he landed on the point of his shoulder. But when you really look back and look at the slow motion, you realize he came down on his arm, hand first, rather than landing on his shoulder. And it happened so fast, you would think I'd be able to see it, but I couldn't. But there was a Riverside player under him, and the player forced his arm in hyperextension outward, so it snapped his arm just above the elbow. And we could tell as I was walking him off the sidelines, I could feel movement in his arm, so it was very clear that he had a broken arm rather than a clavicle or collar or AC separation.
Yeah, I know as a doctor, you've got to keep emotion out of this thing. But when you see kids of that age and they're playing a sport they love, and as Jeff pointed out, a great kid with a backstory of Curtis and how he's got Division I aspirations and just the education facet of it. What's it like when you see a kid just sometimes writhing in pain and just it's done for a season or things of that nature? How do you separate that, and what goes through your mind?
Well, our job, and Dr. Tivnan and I, we're there to make sure that players are safe and that when they're injured, they have the very best of care. And that's always our first thought. But what players verbalize, how they act after they're injured, it varies a great deal. Mm-hmm. When Curtis came off the field, Curtis was in tears. Not because of pain, but because he felt like he let his teammates down.
Yeah.
He was disconsolate because he had failed to be there when his team needed him, and it was an amazing display in the moment of caring and pride and humanity on his behalf, and we see that in players. We don't really realize it's there all the time,
Right.
and there are some who are really concerned about their health and welfare, but he was concerned about the team, number one.
All right. Well, we got 20 seconds left, so I'm just going to wrap things up. But thank you so much for your time, Jeff Chudy, Dr. Baker, also Sandy Taylor and Brett Clark. We thank them for being on the Renegade Report. And these team doctors, by the way, you go to some schools, they don't even have team doctors. We are blessed here at Bakersfield College to have the team doctors here. For everyone here, I'm Greg Kerr. We'll see you next week.